Personally, I'm a very talkative person, and I've always been very talkative and very chatty. And I've always loved telling stories and always been really curious. And I think at the core of it, that's what led me to reporting, because you really want to be a curious person, right? You want to be asking questions that people care about. And I like to approach stories like I don't know anything about the story. That's kind of how I go into every interview. And I sometimes tell my interview subjects that talk to me like I don't know anything you're talking about. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have no idea what they're going to tell me. And really, there's no asking stupid questions, because asking those basic questions sometimes gets you the best sound bites, because you want the person you're interviewing explaining things to people who don't know anything about the subject, right? So, ask the basic questions. Sometimes if I'm at an event and interviewing someone, I just start with, tell me what's going on today. Of course, I know what's going on there. Of course, I've been watching. I can deduce. I can observe what's going on. But I want that person saying that in the interview. So when I go to put the story together later, I have that soundbite of them describing what's going on. I also think, as far as interviewing goes, this depends story to story, but there's usually an emotion behind every story, and finding that emotion really will lead you to the best sound bites, to somebody telling you, like, for example, Mike, the guy in the fire lookout tower. I'm pretty sure I asked him, why do you volunteer your time to do this? He doesn't get paid to do it. He just sits up there and looks for fires for hours on end. And then, that's when you start to get people to open up and talk about why it's important for them to do it, why they care. That's what you want to get out of people. Really, what does this mean to you? Why do you care? So really trying to find that emotion. And oftentimes when you're looking for the emotion, you end up finding good nuggets of truth or information you might not have known about before. Just asking those questions, being curious, is really what will lead you to the truth. I think also it's no secret that the media is under a microscope right now, right? A lot of people are pretty critical of the media and thinking that we are saying one opinion versus the other, right? But it is our job, and it's protected in the US Constitution, that journalists are protected. Having news is protected because it helps with the democracy, making sure people have all of the fair, unbiased, truthful information is really important to our democracy. So that's something else I think about when I'm interviewing people, even if it's not a political story or a crime story or something that's really intense. I try to think about it from multiple perspectives, not just my perspective, not just Olivia's perspective in my life. I try to think about it from, in the fire lookout story, for example, from Mike's perspective, the guy who's sitting up there. I try to think about it from firefighters' perspective. How does it help them? I try to think about it from a homeowner's perspective who lives 5 miles away and is worried about their house burning down. I try to think about it from a taxpayer's perspective, because ultimately, who is paying for that fire lookout tower? It's people who pay taxes, like myself or your parents or your grandparents or business owners. So you have to think about all the different people that story is affecting. And that was just an easy, basic story. That was a fun story. We just get to show people this cool lookout tower. When you start to get into more political stories, you have to start thinking about all the different people these issues affect and ask questions like you're all those different people. So that's a really good tool to start fine-tuning, is thinking about things, putting yourself in multiple people's shoes. And right now is a really good time to practice that muscle, because we have so many people who are feeling so many different emotions in our country right now. So that's a really good test for you if you are watching the news, to think about, okay, I see that person really worked up about that issue. I wonder what somebody on the opposite side would feel or would think. And so asking those questions is really important. And just the last thing I would say about interviewing or being a good reporter is trying to think about the story through the viewer's eyes. So that's why asking those basic questions is important, because you're explaining something to them. You can't take for granted that people already know the basic information. You really have to start from square one and make sure that your audience or your viewer is going to understand the story all the way through. So yeah, just having that natural curiosity and thinking about the story as the viewer, thinking about all the different people the story affects, and asking those questions that really get emotional answers or get to the core of asking that why question. Why do you do this? How will this affect people? Those things that will get emotional answers.